Hello, everyone, and today we're going to be doing some war gaming on some bridge and breach battles, and we'll also start talking a bit about broken field battles towards the end. So right now we're coming up with scenarios on how people would line up and pretty much do an initial charge or push, and then another person is going to figure out how they would stop it or counter it or re-attack. So Heinrich is now currently in the process of thinking really, really hard.
All right, how many people do I have?
Okay, each side will have around 50 to 80 people.
Okay.
Oh, crap. That's a much bigger number than I was thinking about. Okay.
So Heinrich has decided to do a bridge battle. So he's going to be coming up how he's going to set it up composition wise, formation wise, and then what his initial action is going to be.
Okay.
And as always, it's always nice to have a visual reference. So.
All right, so I've got the front two ranks.
Okay.
So I want those two spears. Their job is basically to try and fight diagonally and take out enemy front line. And then the second rank, obviously, if people die, they fill in, or if there's a charge, they counter.
Okay, so you pretty much have just a few spears, 9-foot spears, swords and shields in the front to essentially protect them. And then another row of swords and shields and pole arms to reinforce.
Reinforce and counter charges.
Okay. So essentially you're being very offensive. You're going to be going forward, and are the swords and shields going to continue to try and push through, even if the spears are kind of have to get stopped because they have to have range?
I mean, it's mostly let the spears do their work. But then obviously if they're not making progress, then you have to change it up.
Okay. Because like I said, you got about 50 to 80 people, but you only have really 2 spears that are doing a lot of the initial work.
He's not thinking that big. So we've got a 4 to 5 person bridge wide, but we have 50 to 80 people, which means you've got 3 lines of 5 stacked up one behind the other with 2 other units waiting off the bridge to feed in when they die.
Now, I mean, anyone behind the front 2 ranks would be reinforcing as people in the front die.
Okay, but what would those weapon styles be as reinforcing? Are they reinforcing with more shields, with more pole arms?
Well, they should be ideally replacing whoever goes down. So if a spear goes down, another spear takes their place.
Okay. Now, so Mary, if you were seeing this, how would you set up to counter his formation?
I need a couple of pieces of information. What are the parameters for the bridge battle? Is it a timed battle? Is it a resurrection battle?
Just a straight basic, no resurrection, no time, fight to the last person.
So a meat grinder, basically.
Meat grinder.
Okay, so he puts 2 spears on one side. I would stack the front line all sword and shield. The secondary line would be pole weapons. We're doing the defensive position. If the goal of the bridge was to take the center line, I would do something different. But if the goal is to hold my troops in place, I would do a killing pocket, like a killing pocket.
Like towards the end of yours?
Yeah, so I would break my little, can you see it? Because I'm not sure.
If you can raise it up just a little bit.
Okay. Ignore the scribble outs.
Okay.
But when you said, because I was thinking we were doing 4 or 5 people. Okay, so this is the main line, and I've got 2 reserves out here. They're going to feed into the bridge down alleys, sword and shield, pole weapon spears, depending on what's necessary. They'll feed down alleys down the side to fill in. This first group is all sword and shield. The second group is going to be pole weapons on the end, and then like interspersed sword and shield, pole weapon, sword and shield, pole weapon.
Okay, so you're creating a very fortified front.
It depends. If our objective is the center line, then yes. If it is not, give me a second. I'm going to flip this over so we have a clean bridge. Spear. Dang it. Okay. I need another pen. Oh, chalk. Okay. I would put spears in those positions. This is an anchor position. And then some shields in here to cover the spears. And then maybe some suicide pole weapons. The people that like to jump out in front of the troops and kind of lure them in.
Okay.
But those are the 2, depending on if this is, you said last man standing. So last man standing, I would do this one.
Okay, Heinrich, so you initiated your formation and you're going forward. Mary has now initiated her formation on how she's going to counter or reinforce her stance.
Now I have my group broken up into 3 different groupings because there are such large numbers. That first arc is going to be heavy on the spears because we want to soften them up. Then you're going to have more sword and shields and pole weapons because at some point Heinrich is going to decide and charge in. And I don't want him doing that.
Okay, so where are they located at? Those swords and shields?
Yeah.
So those extra sword and shields that you have, where are they located at in your formation? Are they off to the side and just as a ball and waiting for a command? Are they right behind the first killing pocket?
They're right behind the first killing pocket. The initial arc should have about 8 to 10 people in it. The secondary arc should have somewhere in the range of 10 to 15 people in it, just because it's a wider arc and you need to leave some room between the front line and the secondary line. And then those other 2, 25 or 20 people are off on the right and left to fill in on the right half of the arc or the left half of the arc.
Okay, so
that's just so that they
can to be fill-ins for anyone that falls out or dies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because you don't want that mouth so cramped up that your pole weapons and your spears can't work.
Right.
So it just seemed with 50 to 75 people, 80 people in there, you needed to have a left group, a right group to fill in when things got messy. And you needed that initial kill pocket group. Now that initial kill pocket group is going to be some of the more experienced people, but it's not going to be all the best of the best. You need them on the 2 units that would fill in.
Right.
I don't want them broken down into like the least experienced, the best experienced, and then, you know, the middle experience. I want a good mix, but I also want a good mix of weapons that mimic what we're doing to begin with.
Because you want to make sure that they can react quickly, determine like, all right, we need to fill in a gap real quickly, or we need to counter with a solid shield wall. That's where the experienced people really come into play. Very good.
Yeah,
all right,
they're there to be this. I'm going to kill you, Heinrich.
All right, Heinrich, you see this. How are you going to readjust or attack this position?
All right, well, you told us last week how to defeat a killing cup. So I would get two of my, back in the reserve lines, I'd line up 2 columns of mostly sword and shield and a few pole arms stuck in there. I would get my front and center units with the spears to advance up just to the edge of the killing pocket, but not get into it, just enough to keep those little pole arms sitting in the middle as bait at bay. And then I would have my 2 columns charge up the side. As soon as I get off the bridge, right turn and just go till everyone is off the bridge.
Yeah, you do that. You do that.
See, she already has countered that by having those 2 reinforcing elements off to the side. So she sees that. She's like, Heinrich does this all the time. And this is what I'm going to do.
They're lined up kind of here so that they can go in either direction. I mean, they're not right on top of the line, so he could probably get people in, but that first half of this side line is going to react to that, because my assumption is the leaders of these 2 little reserves are going to say they're coming through. Yep. Okay, let's take the 2 columns here, meet them, 2 columns here and meet them, and push them back. And then it becomes a shoving match.
Okay.
And it depends what I see, because if I see a ball of people on either side of the bridge, then maybe instead of going right, I'll tell my columns just to break all the way through the middle.
And very close. That would be
very close.
So this is kind of what you see, and I'm sorry this isn't clear. Ignore this part, but this is the killing cup. This is a unit, and this is a unit, and they're just little marquees. I'm sorry that wasn't as clear, but that's the end of the bridge. So yeah, coming straight down the middle though will put you between those 2 units. And if you get through here, then they're gonna crunch you in there. Yeah. Which is why I like that setup. So there you go.
This is what I would do. Now, the way that I showed you guys last week works great, because it always works against a very basic, this is how the pocket is, and no one expects it. But when they do expect it, as pretty much had Mary put down, we're going to put on the sides. Okay, if I go out here, it's now going to be tough, because now it's 3 really strong elements that I have to do. What was talked about last week, and I believe you said, Heinrich, remember you would do like a wedge effect?
Yeah.
You remember that? Now, this is the exact same thing. This is the next level up from where I said you flank out. It's the exact same type of thing, but you do it as a wedge.
So like that?
Close. Now what happens is this. It works out the same way as if you do, as if for both a breach and for a bridge. Now what you do is, and they're trying to do a killing pocket like that. Okay. What you do is remember you have the group on the side here and the group on the side here. What you do is, with that type of thing, is you send this group and you take about these first 5 and you bring them over and you create like a little wall right there. The rest of these come up and create a wall right here. What happens is you're using this as a wedge. So you're bringing them in here, boom. And as soon as they stop moving, these people that are right behind here face this way and go this way. What this does is it creates a breach right in this area. And you send this group second movement right through the breach.
Okay. So we're talking about the angles again. The angle, hold on. Which way am I going in this book? Okay. As they approach the line, okay. As they're approaching the line, and we'll say this is the bridge and you've got the weapons and stuff like that. They're approaching, they're approaching like this. So as soon as they get within spear's reach, you're saying that they should wheel?
No,
or start to point in the middle.
Remember, you have swords and shields along the edge.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Yeah.
Here you got the pole arms.
Okay.
And spears and everything like that. They're coming up here and they're getting ready to essentially do the most amount of damage.
Okay, so in that scenario, I would have thought that they would have gone left. And that is making the assumption that our shield men are righties, right-handers.
Yes.
Wait, right hand? No, you're right. Okay, never mind. I was seeing it backwards. Sorry.
Yeah, because you're going
the shield
right.
is going to be to your enemy when they
exactly.
start to. Okay, got it. That's where I was kind of confused.
So at that point, you can either, like I said, use all of these people and come over here, or you can say the first 4 will come over here and wheel, and these will just come up and create a barrier. Either way, you're creating a breach right between this group and this group.
I would actually do it a little bit different because the way that I'm set up with those 2 reserve units, 1 or 2 punch throughs won't create that much chaos within my troops.
Except, Mary, you've got, because it's a killing cup, your farthest away troops are going to take the longest to get there.
So, but that's why I angled them the way that I did.
Won't matter.
Hold on.
Because these groups right here are being useless.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 1 here and 1 here. If you're coming through here and here, then you're going to be caught between this and this, which means this group is split.
There's also a particular tactic you can use against, because he's moving everything to the right. He's stacking a side. Okay. He stacks that side. A killing cup's greatest weakness is on the right side.
Okay, yeah.
On the attack,
it's also called punching or bursting the bubble. What you're trying to do is you're trying to focus one area. Now you can do the same thing by going to the left if you want. You can do it to the right. The center is always the hardest because that's where the majority of the people are. So you try and calculate to see which one is the weakest side and which one you'll be able to do as much movement.
Then can I counter now? Can I counter?
Yeah, you're countering.
Okay, so the troops that you are facing away from, their initial command by their unit commander is to just charge into the side of the invading troops. Because as you come up and like this, these guys are left doing nothing.
Right.
Except facing your shields and your backs. So their initial reaction to being ignored would be to attack and to try and get into the backfield. Now, we're not dealing with 5 or 10 or 20 people. We're dealing with 80.
Right.
So getting into their backfield is not going to be that simple. It's not just punch through and then mix into them, because you've got a second and third wave that may be coming. So that group would initially punch into the side with a small section of them filtering back down the bridge to get into the backfield. In the confusion, I want them to counterflank down the bridge, if possible.
On which side? This side or this side?
Yes.
Damn
it! Damn it!
First one or second one?
Okay.
First one.
So the left side is the side that you are ignoring.
Right.
That group is going to punch hard into that corner that they were initially reserved to protect.
Mm-hmm.
That means the troops coming through and that are starting to turn right, half of them, I'm hoping, will stop at the mouth of the bridge. I'm not letting them all through undefended.
Right. But remember, also on here, once I set this up, I'm going to take and shift all my spears towards this side to engage them, to try and make it so that they realize, oh shit, I need to go over here. Wait a minute, we're still being attacked. So
Okay.
It's giving them hesitation.
No, because in the time it takes to shift spears up, my people should have been charging.
They should
low
been.
Charging, not with their heads up above their shields. We want shield on shield contact, and we want them pushing through like linebackers.
But that's what you have to tell them. And that's why if a commander is there and doesn't say, attack, push on through, stop, they're like, what do we do? Well, we'll just stay in the pocket, because that's what we were told to do. And that's where the good commanders with good communication skills comes into play.
I put good commanders on the reserve units so that they could counter that.
But very few people do. And yours is the right answer. I know. It's amazing.
I can't even, all the time So, yeah.
That are willing to train together in large groups, Mary. If they don't,
I know, and we don't have enough people that are training together, even when we aren't caught in this pandemic. They don't think it's worth their time. And quite frankly, that's frustrating for me, because I know what good training will do on the field, which is
valuable.
It is. I used to be able to go out and
steamroll other things, and you're like, how are they able to do that and we can't? Because they just
the steamroller.
A little bit of training helps.
So when I first started out, I was brand new and I looked like a child in a snowsuit in my ill-fitting armor. What the trainers for my group down in Carmera did was they stacked all the new people as shields, as a shield wall, and locked us up. And our only order was to keep that line straight, keep locked up, and keep advancing on the enemy. Because in the second line were the pole weapons, the two swords, we didn't have any spears, because this was supposed to be a moving unit of new people. And all we were tasked with was holding together as the backfield directed us at a target. And we weren't charging. We weren't doing anything except walking up and then taking a 3-step shove into, it wasn't really called a charge because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. He would say, engage, 3 steps away from a shield wall. And our practice said, shove your shield into theirs. And that's it. We weren't expected to break through. We weren't expected to hit anyone. The second line of pole weapons would sandwich us between them and the other line and hit everybody over us. And we took out more enemies that way because we were a steamroller. That was it. That was all we did. We weren't dynamic. We weren't flankers. We weren't anything but a wall that walked. And that got us more kills than anything.
It is. And because even a lot of brand new people don't even get into a shield wall. They don't know how to walk in command. All right. But then again, as I was saying before, whenever you give a command, you should always have, I don't want to say a special command, but say, for example,
an objective.
When I say, all right, we're going to form up, we're going to do this. And when I yell, Princess Pony, that's the command for everyone to go in and go to the side. So everyone knows Princess Pony. And then when we actually do the one where we come in and we do the wedge to create a breach, we're going to call that Power Ranger. All right, everyone ready? Power Ranger right. All right. Everyone, we need to go right. But when you get to have these commands where you're saying Power Ranger right, and the group's like, we know what's going on. You're a unit. You know, that is commands. That is composition. That is the entire concept of the thing. Everyone knows what to do. They know the words. They know the imagery. They know the final outcome. It's great. But as you said, when very new people, they need to, all right, everyone step together. Make sure you're walking, you're shoulder to shoulder. All right. When I say charge, it's going to be a 3-step charge. So right when we get close, you're like, we're about ready to get about 3 steps, I'll be ready to hear the word charge. And then everyone understands this is what you need to do.
If you've ever seen a dog run into a door, or a cat run into a door and shake it off kind of deal, that was us. We didn't have any form. We didn't know where to hit. All we did was make sure that we were in front of the pole weapons so that they could climb over us and kill everybody. That was it.
But you knew the commands, you knew a formation, you knew the basic stuff, and it worked.
And if we died, die forward. And I did have pole weapons step over me like a bridge.
Yeah.
That was it.
Especially if it's on a bridge or in a breach, you always have to fall forward.
Yep.
So they can't try and create another wall. They have to move the wall back.
Yeah, they do. And I got really good at dying and falling forward. It was fun. So that's the reason I set up my units like that with commanders, is because those commanders can react quickly to anything coming in, which is why I say, if you're going to put those spears up there in that maneuver, they need to be in a position where they're already there and can drop their spears, not have to move up.
Drop them and fight a different way, you mean? Or what do you mean by drop?
Atlantia teaches us that when we move, we hold the spear up.
Right.
When we move into position, we drop it down and we get more aggressive. So instead of moving, when you move up to do this, you already have those spears interlaced in there, so that there is no moving from here to here. There's only filing up, taking up that position, and everybody goes past them from behind. You don't want to have the... Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to try a breach. So now Mary's in charge. She gets to be either offensive or defensive, and trying to bust through a 3-person wide breach in a wall.
Okay.
So you can either defend it or you can attack it, and then come up with the plan.
Okay. A 3-person breach.
And we'll see if Heinrich can come up with a good counter plan, or if he's just like, I want to stay in the good graces of my Baroness, so we will die glorious deaths.
Okay. Are there people in the breach, or are spears guarding it?
There is no breach. I mean, there's no people in the breach. It's just a breach. They say lay on, and you have to get about 30 feet to get to the breach. So.
Okay.
Everyone has the same distance to get there.
Okay. So this is my little breach. I had made the assumption that there were like shields there. They're not.
Are you defending or are you attacking?
You said I was attacking.
No, you're going to be doing the breach. You can either attack or defend. You can choose which one you want to do.
Oh, so this is not a castle breach. This is an open field line.
No, it's a castle. So if you're defending it, you're inside the castle. If you're attacking it, you're outside the castle trying to get it.
Okay, I'm outside the castle, but I'm trying to figure out if there's anyone inside in that gap.
Yes, there is. There's going to be another group. So.
Okay. So depending on what I see on that gap being defended will depend on what I do. If it's spears on that gap instead of sword and shields, spears.
Okay, before you answer, before you get there. Okay, Heinrich, you're defending it. What are you doing? Are you putting spears? Are you putting shields? Are you sending out two or three people outside as a rover? How are you defending this thing very quickly? So she can come up with a plan.
Very quickly. I think I'm going to work and set up a killing cup.
Inside or outside? Because if it's on the inside, it's called a cup. If it's on the outside, it's called a bubble.
Oh, I got a new term, killing bubble.
Oh, so if I'm inside,
you're able to arc it.
So what is the scenario objective?
Well, to kill everyone and win the castle or conquer the castle.
We still have 50 to 80 people?
50 people each side.
Okay.
No resurrections, no time limit.
Okay. Last man standing, basically.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So what I'm going to do, first thing is I'm going to send about 6 beefy shieldmen to plug that breach and just stand in there and not die.
Okay. Is it going to be in a killing? I mean, are you going to do it in a pocket or are you just going to go in there and just create a new wall with your shield?
Just put a wall there.
All right. So he rushes in and he puts a wall up there. Now, what are you going to do, Mary?
I'm going to find...
Heinrich is now thinking what is second and third order effects and attack measures.
I am going to find 20 of the biggest guys I have on my side and create 2 columns of 10. I am going to put the biggest 2 on the front, sword and shield. The first 6 in each line are going to be sword and shield, and well, maybe the first 3 to 4 sword and shield. And the last part of it is going to be pole weapons. The pole weapons simply need to push until they get to the other side. Once they're on the other side, I want them to do the fountain into the backfield and kill everything. Now, the double column is the first part.
Okay.
My army is going to follow. Quick step behind them. I do not want the other side to have a second's breath to think about what might be coming. The main army will follow this double column punch through and they will kill everything in sight. That's it.
Okay. So you see that she has this massive hammer wave coming your way. What are you going to do to reinforce it? What are you going to do, Heinrich?
All right. So while I've got my guys plugging up the hole, I set up a nice killing cup behind them. And their orders, if they see this column start coming in, back out of the way, let maybe 10 guys through, and then try and push back in and close the hole.
Okay, so you're going to create a gate. You're going to open them up, let some people in, and then close it up. And this, with your people just beat them up
We're
with
gonna
like
die.
little.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe you'll be able to do that. Maybe not.
Well, at that point, for you, Heinrich, what I would do is, since you know that she has major force coming through, I would probably say I will do the gate, but I need to have a second shield wall to go and reinforce the first one, because they're going to either get them weak, they might be kind of fragile, 3 of them might have died during the punch through, and they might not be strong enough to close. So you need to have essentially a second shield wall to come in to kind of reinforce it, and then have
they'll
the
be hitting
one
it on the sides rather than from the front.
And a secondary behind the killing cup, because the secondary wave of my attacking force doesn't care about the first column punch through. They expect them to die. What's coming through next is 80 people intent on killing the other side. Unless there's a concerted force to bounce us back, you're getting 80 people coming through a 3 to 4 man gap.
Yep, that's about it.
And that usually does not end well. I've been on the receiving end.
Once the dam breaks, you're trying to stuff it with a couple fingers is not working. So you need like a huge amount of shields to really kind of, instead of just trying to close it together like this, sometimes you actually have to just almost make it a sliding door. So it's, okay, we got 3 people coming in, now we got 2 people coming in, now we got 1 person coming in, and now we finally got it stopped. So the sliding door effect has more capability, because it's essentially at that point, it's a wedge where you're kind of just a door. So yeah, we'll go like this. And as soon as the door comes up, you get more and more people that are kind of rolling it in to reinforce it.
I would actually, on that initial gap, not leave it light. It's a 3-person wide gap. I'd put 15 to 20 people, swords and shields only, on that gap, 3 columns, rows deep, and then create a 2 to 3 line killing cup behind that. Because that initial punch through, if I get through, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Because my group is not going to stop.
But and having and as she says, once you have such a big number there, you're going to be able to stop a lot. But when the ones that do come in are going to be maybe just 2 or 3 people compared to 12. So yeah, having a bigger force to begin with during that punch allows for less people to come in and better control of trying to reinforce or reblock that thing. Totally agree with that.
Now, I would change that up if I just wanted to screw with you, like defending it. I'd just put a knight in the gap. And that's all you see.
And we take the 80, we'll go to the other part, what?
Yeah. But the knight is all you see. Behind the gap, I would put 10 on one side, maybe 20 on the other, so that when the bulk of the army gets through, they're hijacked from behind when they try to make that turnout.
The other thing I would do is with those, not out of those 20 people that are holding, I would probably put about 15 swords and shields and 5 pole arms. And the whole purpose of the pole arms is not really to hit anyone, but to actually just reinforce the backside of the sword and shield wall.
Yeah.
And then when some people do get through, they can stop, kill them, and then reinforce them again. So having some pole arms interspaced every once in a while can really save you.
Well, see, I make the on the defending side, I make the choice depending on whether I just don't want them getting through. Like I want this gap not to even be a position to them, meaning I want them to see a lot of people but no movement, no flexing of that line. If I were to have pole weapons, I would at least make sure that one of those pole weapons was a high caliber commander. If we were going to,
that would be a good call.
Implement them, because I've seen that fall apart plenty of times.
Right, and the pole arm can see everything. Very good vocally, can reinforce, can reshift. Yep, I'm totally in agreement on that. Now, let's talk a little bit more about strategy tactics about it. So, say for example, you got the people with the swords and shields, and they're lined up and they're creating a nice solid shield wall. You got some people with pole arms in back reinforcing them in case of a push. Now, instead of doing an initial push, what is a way to kind of create a weak wall effect? What I mean by that is, say you got one shield here and then another shield here, maybe even another one, but let's just say two for sure, and say the third one's on top, so no one gets hit on the head by someone trying to hit with a pole arm. What you can do is go and say, all right, I'm going to have like a big honking cannonball group of people right in front, ready to go. But on the sides, I'm going to get 6 pole arms and 2 spears, one on each side, and 3 pole arms on each side. Now, my goal on that is to not actually attack them, but to actually go and grab the shields and pull forward. Okay. See, what's happening is most people on the shield wall is essentially not going forward, but they're leaning back. Yeah. So what they do is and that stops a really strong charge. But when you start pulling the shields forward, you are now losing their center of gravity. They become unbalanced. So if you can get a couple spears up in a corner, a couple pole arms up in the corner, some shields, and everyone just goes and they're not attacking, and the order is do not hit forward, but just grab and pull. What's happening is that they're changing their center of mass from being attacked to being open. So what happens is they're being pulled forward. What's the natural reaction? To pull back. And then as soon as they get
thrust them.
Well, no, what you do is you say Captain America, and then all of a sudden all the pole arms and spears let go. They're pushed back. They give a nice little jerk back. And that's when the hammer comes forward. So now they're pulling themselves back as they get hit. It creates a very weak wall. You look a little confused to me, Heinrich. Am I?
No, I get it.
Just not enthusiastic about it. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
No, I like that.
It's another advanced tactic aspect, but it works great because it creates a very unstable wall. It creates where people are like, all right, this is, yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, ah.
It's like when you fight one-on-one tournament and you get in really close and your legs are kind of almost tangled up and the other fighter bumps your knee.
Become off balance, awkward, and the other bad thing. The other thing that it does is once you're off balance, you have no capability of throwing a shot.
Yeah. What were you saying, Cosmo?
I said, don't give away secrets for fighting the old castles.
I recently, before the pandemic, fought someone who was original Old Castle. And he and I went one-on-one and neither one of us could kill each other. And when he got done, he was like, where'd you learn your footwork? And I said, well, I learned it like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, doing Old Castle. And he was like, who taught you? And I told him Corby. And he was like, yeah, okay, now I know why neither of us can beat each other. Corby taught me too. And the thing is, when you do the Oldcastle and you're so far refused that you're like almost in a fencer sideways stance, that footwork where you put your foot like next to theirs, that will win you the fight.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if one foot is here and the other foot's here and this one goes like that, or you bump a knee, that's a win for you. That's not about who throws first. It's about who can position or manipulate better.
The really good fighters are the ones that still do that, or they do it without knowing it. But it's a style that's not taught very much anymore. And it's such a good style, but it's also a style you can't really teach it to new people because they're just not to that skill level yet. And if they try to do it, sometimes it doesn't work well and they get frustrated.
It used to be that Atlantia trained their fighters from that particular fighting school because Girth was one of ours and he had a large household that taught it. And it was the easiest way to get people to understand shield work. If you've read the manual, you'll understand what I mean. He basically tells you whatever arm your shield is on, ignore shots from that side, which is mostly true because everybody was using the 24x36 heater shield strapped to their arm. And that covered from head to knee, and that was the zone.
Remember, up with the style, when he first kept losing to Michael, because Michael was super fast when he was young, and he was always around that way. So Girth came up with a refuse style to stop Michael hitting him in the side of the head, and it developed from there.
Yeah, and the way to train someone with that is fairly easy, but I don't think that the footwork comes all that easily to people, old and new these days, because it's not consistently fought. If your trainer does it, it's easier for you to learn. If they're just teaching you from the manual, it's not so easy to learn. Like I know pretty much 1, 2, 3. I know pretty much 3 different fighting styles from the SCA. You've got the Anstey or open style, you've got Oldcastle, and then you've got the boxer A-frame style.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have different pluses and minuses. My style is kind of everything. Shake it up, and then whatever you're thrown into, throw. That's it.
One of the ways that I've seen that works out really well is I've taken a lot of martial arts and everything like that. And I really love Aikido because what it is you are essentially going off form. So instead of just 2 people coming in together, you're going off to the side and you're creating an off balance momentum. So instead of someone coming in like this, now all of a sudden they're off to the side and they're like, whoa, and they can't throw straight. Their shots are not solid. And
you're using the Aikido to attack their center from a different angle.
Right. And all I did was I realized that that's how a lefty fights.
Hey, Rick.
I don't know if you know that or not.
No. Well, fighting lefties is a little bit difficult for me because I have right and left brain issues. They don't like to talk easily to each other. So when I have to throw against a lefty, I have to almost go back to them and throw offside, which is not, it hasn't been as powerful as I need it to be. I would rather throw a wrap, but their shield is, either in the way or my shield is in the way. So
I love fighting lefties because I fight like a lefty because I go offside. Lefty, if you see a lefty, for example, the best way that I explain it is if you have 2 righties, you say, all right, you two just shake hands. and then they shake hands. And then you say stop right when they're shaking hands. Now you ask them, where is their hand placement at? Their hand placement is directly in the center because they're like straight in.
Yeah.
Now I'm saying, then I say, okay, now pretend both of you are going to shake hands left. So instead of shaking hands right, you shake hands left. What happens is this.
Okay.
For someone who's just a righty, they're like, hey, how's it going? And their hands right in the middle, everything. If you try and do as a lefty, you're like this and you step in because it's not natural. It's not a natural form. So you actually step in. And what happens is you're stepping in towards shoulder.
Okay.
So lefties fight like this. So they fight in a V pattern.
Okay.
So if you go and shake hands with a lefty, many times you're going to see that lefty, instead of just taking a step forward and shaking hands, they're going to take their foot and they're going to go actually towards the shoulder and shake.
I'm going to watch you now, Henry.
And so when I fight, instead of just going straight, I'll take a step over towards the shoulder side.
Okay.
And my angles, they're like, haha, I can block this. And all of a sudden, wait a minute, how did I get around my shield? Because I just took a little step and changed my slight angle a little bit.
Yeah.
So when I fight a lefty, okay, this is my normal stance, whatever. They're like, okay, are you ready? Again, whack. I cross my shield over to block this side, which pushes my left hip forward a little bit. And what I do is I bring my sword over to the right, to my left side, their right side. And what I do is I take a step towards their shoulder and throw straight in to the right side of their head.
And 70% of the time, they'll never block it.
They don't block it. I will hit them 5 to 7 times straight in a row. And they're like, because they got the shield there, they're not used, because they're used to like doing this and they just bring it up. They're not used to bringing it over. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm blocking it now. It's literally a stressful thing because they're not used to just, they have to do this. And once they do that, they've changed their body form.
Okay.
So I go and I do the nice little, I throw like this, and then I take my other foot and I take a step and I go like this and I do a full wrap on them. Because lefties don't like to fight in close. Do you like to fight in really close, Heinrich?
I kind of do, actually.
Okay. So you don't usually take a step out with your left foot?
But that it might be because a lot of the people I fight very often also don't like to fight close. So if I get in close, I'm fighting in their weaker forms.
I like fighting close.
No, you know, Mary, you're
right. But Hakan doesn't, and Ryan doesn't, and very few of our knights do.
Yeah, I gotta cut Ryan off before he hits his stride. Just not letting him ever hit his stride.
Is he another lefty?
No, Ryan was a ballet dancer as a child, so he has perfect form, and he's fast and wiry. And for fun, he runs, 12 miles to and from work? Yay!
I knew some person who was so great at angles, but that was because he was a tennis player.
Yeah.
So he would go and run left to right and just go back and forth with his angles, both high and low with his tennis racket. And oh my God, he was getting around shields like crazy. And I was like, this guy is freaking amazing. And he was from the Outlands. And I can't remember what his name was, but I believe he won Crown List at 18, the first Crown List he entered.
Wow.
And I fought him at Lily's. Oh man, that was about 8 years ago. And we were fighting. I was like, my God, I've never seen this guy. This guy is amazing. And luckily enough, we double killed twice. And then he threw something that I'd never seen before and killed me. And I'm like, wow, how long have you been fighting? And he's like, just under 3 years. I'm like, say what?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I just turned 18 about 3 months ago. I'm going to fight in Crown List in a couple months. I'm like, yeah, he was that good.
Good.
But yeah, but it was.
I hope he had a good reign, because he sounds like he was an incredible fighter.
I hope so too. I wasn't in the kingdom where he was, but no, it's just one of those things where certain skills, certain because he was tennis player in high school, and he practiced it every day. He just transferred that skill capability to what it is. So it was.
Well, Ryan is
running 12 miles every day. Oh my God, yeah, that guy's endurance factor is gonna 8 hours of a melee.
So here's how this goes. Here's how this goes with Ryan. Ryan has made me a better, quicker fighter, because he's fast and he's very accurate with his shots, and they have good power on them. I won't say they're 10s, but they're good, strong 7s. But when he attacks, he will throw like 5 shots before anyone throws one. So I've had to be fast with my defense and my offense. So I'll fight him first to get warmed up for everybody else. And then after him, I'm super fast with everybody else.
That's a good call.
Yeah. So that's the secret, Henry.
Okay, let's go back to what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay.
Yep. Actually, we'll transition now into talking about broken field battles.
Okay.
So, what? You don't like it?
Broken field battles.
See, the interesting thing about broken field battles is the fact that you have to have multiple units.
Yeah, you do.
You have to have a reserve.
Yeah.
So therefore, this is one of the great ways of having, hey, you know what? We're going to have 4 units with 4 different commanders. And the 3 junior leaders are going to be doing number 2, 3, and 4 groups. All right. Group number 2, you're going to be blocking this section from this tree to this wall. And therefore, you're going to make sure that no one gets through. You're going to be able to see, hey, the enemy is not even really attacking here. They're flanking usually way to the right. And most of the time, the standard is there's always going to be a big flanking force on either the left or the right side, because that's how we normally do it. So you can see a bigger aspect of the field on how it's happening, how things change. Oh, they're getting really destroyed here, so they're going to have to change their tactic. Maybe they're going to come through here to try and break through a weaker point, whatever. But whenever you have a broken field battle, is great opportunity to determine, okay, we're going to set up a defensive line. Group number 3 is going to be a roving unit. They're going to come over here and they're going to reinforce group 2, or they're just going to wander around and stop any roving units that the enemy has and just stop them in an open field. Group 4 is going to be in the reserve. And what we're going to do is we're going to be placing like 30 meters back. And we're going to be able to see where should we go. If there's someone that says help, we go help them. Or we're going to see a gap. Hey, the enemy just took their group 2 away to help fill in. We're going to take our reserve and we're going to punch through where their group 2 used to be, and we're going to start killing from behind. Or they might come in and say, you know what? Instead of just creating a shield line for group 2, we're going to have group 2 and group 3 come together, or group 2 and group 4, and we're going to create like a little L, where all of a sudden now we're able to move together as a bigger unit to to destroy certain aspects. All right, we're going to punch in through the back, or we're going to make sure that we're funneling them. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to wheel, and we're going to let another unit come behind us. So you're reinforcing a certain thing. Broken fields, I'm not a big fan of because they're so chaotic. Because there is not a lot of command, there's not a lot of this is what we're doing. When you do this, usually with fencing, and open field battles and everything like that for fencing, pretty much everything is going to be mostly thrust or cut and thrust. So therefore it's a cut or it's a thrust. But you don't see a lot of huge movements where all of a sudden people are really, because you can't do like a big wrap with them and stuff like that. So the amounts of movements are very limited. So they don't do a lot of broken fields. They do a lot of big open fields because it's just two lines coming in on each other.
Yeah.
But the agility of a broken field with a good unit that is very good, very maneuverable, that's when you have, all right, we're going to have our 10-person unit. We're going to have 3 spears, 2 pole arms, and 5 swords and shields. And then we're going to come up and we're going to run. Okay, we're just moving around. Okay, you see that group over there? We're going to attack them. All right, we're going to come up here. As soon as we stop, I want the swords and shields to come front, pole arms, go up to the sides, spears in the middle. And what we're going to do is we're just going to draw them in. And then as soon as they draw in, we're going to have the spears run out to the side, and we're going to just collapse them with the pole arms. I mean, it's a very non-committal type of thing, but it's a great way to start developing different things. I mean, you can see an opening. Hey, that group is really, really weak. They got nothing but swords and shields. So as soon as we go to attack them, what's going to happen? They're going to stop. They're going to create a shield wall because that's what they can do with just sword and shield.
Yeah.
At that point, we just go. We take all of our sword and shields. We put them on one corner. We put all of our pole arms in the other, and we just kind of hit sword and shield against sword and shield, and we wrap them up with the pole arms. And then the spears, we're just going to go out. They take a couple steps back, and they're just going to gank people who are not paying any attention to what's going on. So I like broken fields because you can really develop a team, come up with a thing, and you're not really having to commit to it because our first plan was to come up as a line. 5 minutes later, we're totally useless. Let's go and do something else. Yeah. And then you can kind of make it fun and everything like that.
But, well, here's why I don't like broken fields is because all the other scenarios are fairly predictable. Broken fields are not. So
very much
don't like them. Also, I need to train with the unit much better to tackle a broken field. And that means in armor, swinging sticks, working together at gaps and different defense positions and offense positions. So.
Nope, and that's how it works because in the military, we have a thing called attack, defend, counterattack. And then we have defend, counterattack, defend, counterattack. That's always the way that the military keeps moving forward. We always want to, we're weak, we need to defend. We're strong again, we need to attack. Oh, we need to get some reinforcements, we're going to defend, and now we're going to attack. So you're always advancing, you're always increasing the capabilities of your situation. But that's the whole point too, is hey, you might hit, like I said, the first group is nothing but sword and shields. This one's going to be easy. All right, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Boom, they're all dead. We kill, and we lost one person. This is great. All right, the next group is over there. Oh man, look at that. They got Florentine pole arm, and 5 spears. Oh man, this is going to be the most mobile unit. They're going to run around like crazy. So they're going to run around, break us up out of our formation, we need to make sure we stay in formation. So we have the killing capability. And once we get into into our formation, that's where their 5 spears are just going to keep on trying to kill us, because that's what they're waiting for. That combination is, hey, we'll kill them with the mobile unit, and if they stay stationary, then we'll kill them with the spears. It's a very dangerous group to attack. But at that point too, you need to have, all right, we're going to go and try and, if you can, try and outflank the spears, because they're going to be the most dangerous. Excuse me. But it also depends also on, if you try to flank, more than likely one of their Florentine and polearm combinations are going to try and kill you, because it's going to be a 2-on-1, and they have very good mobility with what they have. So it seems weird, because it's like, well, they have no swords and shields, they have no defense. No, but they got mobility, and mobility can just, I'm just going to keep on running away from you, and I can run away until I see a sword and shield that they can protect me. So it's one of those where people are, it's a very advanced style, but it's very effective.
Yeah.
So
now, when you mentioned your Florentine pole weapon, and then your spears, were you putting your spears on either end and in between the Florentine and pole weapons?
No, I put them all together, because they're all pretty much going to be, almost 4 of them are going to be on a line, and 1 is going to kind of be off to the side, kind of like I said.
So in front of the pole weapon and Florentines.
Yes, actually, one of the Florentine is pretty much going to be just kind of protecting, and maybe a sword and shield and a Florentine and a polearm will protecting, but that other Florentine and polearm will definitely be just trying to get behind you, kill a few of your people, or they're gonna send out 2, 1 on each side. And then at that point, they're always going to attack your big weapon system. So they're going to be attacking your pole arms, things like that. And then
I was thinking in my head, depending on how you had the pole weapon set up, someone racing down the middle and hitting the spears from the side could kind of screw up your whole troops.
True, but you usually at that point, you got some of the best spearmen in the world. So therefore, they're all going to, as soon as one person comes in, they're going to step to the side, kind of do a little strike to make sure that they bring their shield over. And then the other person from the other side just going to gank them right in the chest.
Good.
So they want you to attack straightforward with a single person. It's just their bread and butter kills. So you really need to, all right, if we're going to do this, we have to attack as a complete sword and shield group. But when that happens, then the spears at that point will pretty much separate, create a gap as your sword and shields come in. So at that point, you have to commit, we're coming in, and then we're shifting, but then you're getting gacked from behind from the other spears again. So it's you have to figure out, do we split our swords and shields? And it's my suggestion is, hey, we got a pretty good unit. We will not attack that unit. We will not attack them at all until we get 20 more people, because this is going to hurt us badly. So do not attack them.
Biggest numbers win the fight.
Pretty much. It always happens. And you get the rarity where all of a sudden you get lucky or confusion, but yeah, usually the bigger numbers will always win. So
the commander of one of the units does something really stupid.
Well, at that point, what they do is they do something that is not working with the other elements that they're fighting with. So they do something that makes them separate.
Yep.
And at which point then you kill them, and now the numbers become more even. And that's when it's like, oh, well, they did have a number advantage, but now it's getting close. So
marshaling at Pennsic, and the field battle turned into a broken field battle rather quickly.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time. because we're going to keep on marching, and then one group stops and the group keeps marching. It's like, why'd they stop? We were never supposed to stop.
Well, what happened on this one? What happened on this one was Callantyr and the two Chucks are supposed to be working together, which is a very hard thing to get to happen. So Callantyrs were supposed to charge across the field as a unit, and the two Chucks are supposed to rotate around them. Next thing that happened was the Atlanteans came across the field, column formation, very fast. The Callantyr king screamed, "Bird up." As soon as he screamed that, the two Chucks who were supposed to be doing this split into two sides. The Atlanteans run into one half of the two Chuck formation, destroy it, and then go proceed to running down the backfield. Next thing that happens is the Atlanteans also left about 30 people there to go around this bird. And the bird kept tightening rather than moving. Now at that Pennsic, getting closer together.
Okay.
At Pennsic, they had us outnumbered. For every 4 of ours, there were 5 of them.
Okay.
Which works out to, they should have won the field battle. And the bird just stayed there. The Atlanteans went all the way down the field, came all the way back, and then hit the bird. And that was it. That was the field battle. I watched as Middle Kingdom fighters were going off the field. We outnumbered them. Why didn't we win?
Yeah.
And all because Callantyr took itself completely out of the fight. And everything just broke down into groups of broken field battles off of that.
Well, that happens. And it sounded like they just created a column wedge. They just went like this and broke up their formation, and they weren't able to do it. It was a good call.
The longest time after that, the two Chucks refused to fight on any Callantyr was on.
Wait, I can't hear you now, Cosmo.
No, it's still on.
Okay.
I hate to miss out, but I got to get on another call. So I'll see everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. See you next week. All right. Yeah, we'll probably just end it for the night.
Okay.
So I want you to think about, like as we were talking about, some of your experiences with open field or broken field, excuse me, how it can be worked to what you see as good, what you see as bad. As you said, you don't really like it, and that's fine. But now what can you do to practice to make it better? Like that type of thing.
So I've seen many different broken fields, like the towns or the picket lines or stuff like that, where they just have stuff in the middle of the field that you have to use or get around. And those are easier to predict than the traditional broken field, where it's an open field and you go out there and then you've got a line here and you've got a line here and you've got this over here. Those are easier for me to deal with because you have objects that you can use or play off of, but when it's people, I want to kill them.
Nope, and that's pretty much.
I want to go all Chucky on them because they get in your way.
That's why we're going to go into the transition from broken field to open field, because open field reverts back to a broken field. And once we have an understanding and control and a good understanding, because once an open field becomes a broken field, that's when command and control gets lost. We don't know what we're doing, mistakes are made, and we don't really fix it. So that's why I actually like broken fields, because at that point you can say, Unit 2, go do this. Unit 3, stay where you're at. and you can still do command and control of the different units to still get the overall picture. But we always go straight with the open field first, and then when it breaks up, no one knows, what was I supposed to stay here? Was I supposed to go to this group? What was I supposed to do? So I kind of
mostly
backwards on it.
Mostly what we're taught in Atlantia is to train as para-triads, do whatever engagement you're assigned, and then rally and do it again. So,
which is a pretty good basic formula to always have.
Yeah, well, you can't really lose it that way. You can lose the battle, you can't lose your partner. But like on a bigger scale, we don't really have that bigger scale training.
And that's why having a broken field you can train in a smaller aspect of an open field. You can still do it. It's because if you just do like, oh, we got an open field, but we only got like 8 people, it doesn't really feel like an open field battle. But if you train it like a broken field as an 8-person unit, it's the exact same thing as working with a big unit in an open field. So, all right. Okay. If we're good, I'll have you think about some more of your experiences, and we'll talk about it again next week if we're still good.
Yep. Thursday 7, send me a link so I can give it to Emily and she can put it online. Okay.
Sounds great.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye, Cosmo.
Hey, before you go.
What?
My shirt.
Assuming I'm just, what does the bottom say? I'm assuming I'm just.
Oh man, was your first mistake.